Marvel Good Yay, our brand new spin-off series of the Geek Easy podcast where we are going back and discussing every single Marvel Cinematic Universe film leading up to the release of Avengers Endgame. I am Pixel Dan.
Jonathan Leonard.
And Jaron McCaffrey.
And today's topic of discussion, the mighty Thor. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is always a fun rewatch.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, I always know I love Thor. I never quite remember how much I love Thor, like, if I'm not in the middle of watching it.
There's always, like, moments of this movie that I remember fondly and recall. Like, I think specifically the easy go-to is, I'll have another, and the drink, the glass smash thing, you know? It's like the one thing you always remember about this movie. But I don't think I have watched this movie in many, many years.
Really?
So this was my first time. I probably watched it a few times when it first came out. Like, I definitely probably saw it in the theater twice or so, and then watched it when it came out. But it's probably been since then, since I've seen this one again. So this was a lot of fun to go back and like re-experience.
Yeah, that was 2011.
I know. Yeah.
Or 2010.
So this would have been.
You're supposed to know these things, John.
Yep.
So, I've probably seen this one more than the rest.
Yeah.
But there's a weird thing with this one for me where it's on a line where it's really good, but I can put it on and have it on in the background and not get like so drawn in and engaged to it.
Okay.
Like, you know, if I put on like Winter Soldier and I have something else to get done, it ain't getting done.
That other thing's not getting done.
Yeah,
that makes total sense.
I can have Thor on in the background, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I'll get done what I need to get done.
Yeah.
So this was a go-to for me for a while, where it was like, well, I just want to put this on.
Yeah.
While I'm doing this other thing.
Okay.
So
cool.
I've seen this one a ton.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it was May of 2011. I was thinking it was a Thanksgiving movie for some reason. That's why it wasn't mentioned in my head. But that obviously Ragnarok was a November movie, but this one was a summer kickoff again. And then Captain America would have been July of that year,
the
which
same
I
year,
thought
right?
was a May movie, because most of them have been. So I'm just getting all my sequels mixed up. But yeah, they were the same year, because this is 2011 was a 2 installment year. 2012 was just the Avengers. And then we got kicking it back off into the multiple realm right there. So, yeah, May of 2011, starting off the summer again with another Marvel movie. We've got a budget of around $150 million. We've got a domestic gross of $181 million. So it made all its money back in the States and then some overseas. Grand total worldwide is $449 million on this one. So continuing that string of Phase 1 installments where they're expensive but not ridiculously expensive to make, but they're all making gangbusters at the box office, like well more than not necessarily more than highest imagination could take you. Because boy, do they start making more and more after when at the end of Phase 1 and going into Phase 2, you can really start to see these impressive numbers really start to increase by magnitude. But this follows that trend where they keep coming out with these first installments, and everyone's really happy with them, and they're not getting as many repeat viewings, but everybody's going to see them already. So
awesome. So where do you guys want to start with Thor?
I want to start with the title screen on the Blu-ray. It is gorgeous. It's like and I think it's actually it's the credit sequence where it's like flying through space, but they've like added in Mjolnir. So Mjolnir is like flying through the wormhole and blasting through this galaxy. I don't know. I'm enthralled. Like I literally sat there and watched it cycle through like 3 or 4 times. I just like, this is gorgeous.
This is the best part of the movie. No, I love this movie.
Not the best part. The first thing that jumped out at me for sure.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to start. I don't know, where do you guys want to start?
I didn't see. I just I got it off of Google Play, so I didn't get the cool title sequence there. But
I'll bring it over and show it to you sometime, bro.
Let's have a Blu-ray menu watching party.
I'll bring Memento, and we'll all be confused. I mean, I guess we can just dive right into the movie itself.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Nobody else has any other setup stuff going in? This is our first experience with Chris Hemsworth in the Marvel universe.
It is, yes. Yep. Yeah, well, and I guess it's also worth noting that this is our first real big leap off of Earth and into this kind of realm of the Marvel universe, which is kind of one of those things where it shows that they're getting a little gutsy with the stuff that they're doing, right? Because the big thing with superhero movies right before the MCU really booted off was everything was so grounded in reality. It had to be grounded in reality so that the general public will understand and watch it.
Yep.
And this was kind of Marvel's first go at, well, we're just going to straight go and make this movie about some Norse gods, and out in outer space where there's all these different realms and all these, So this was kind of our first leap into seeing like the whole galaxy aspect of the Marvel universe, which obviously gets expanded upon going forward and becomes a big part of the whole thing. So that's kind of cool.
They really expanded on the world building with stuff like that.
Yeah.
They start to introduce these other concepts. They do a lot with, despite the fact that this is a leap into the realm of fantasy, because they are doing the Norse god stuff. They are off planet or off dimension, or however. I guess it would just be off planet. Space and dimensions all sort of start to blur together.
But
they make a big deal in this movie to sort of explain the background of that, between the dichotomy between magic and science.
Yep.
And there's several points in the movie where they kind of bring that mix up, and I feel that sort of, despite the fact that they're getting more grand, they're also grounding it in their own way and in their own universe, because they're giving you these bigger events and these flashier stories and just the more colorful environments and all that stuff, but they're giving it to you in a way where you can go, it's still grounded in our reality.
Right.
Like, we still have a structure and it fits into that. So it's not this is how it would happen if Thor were real, but it is very much like we've built our world and this is how it starts to interlock with each other,
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So I'm trying to remember. This started like
starts with Thor and Loki. Well, it starts with Odin giving the backstory on the war.
That's
the
right.
Frost Giant War.
Didn't it start with the scientists?
Oh yeah.
It starts with the scientists, and that the Bifrost sort of opens up in front of them, and they are driving into it. Looks kind of like a tornado, and she hits Thor with the van.
Yeah.
And gets out, tries to make sure he's not. Or I think it skips right there.
Yeah, because
she does get out to make sure he's not dead. And then it's
we don't really see.
Yeah, like, where did he come from?
Yeah,
and then you go over to
we
Odin.
Jump back.
Odin giving the overture about the
Frost Giants.
Yeah, the Frost Giants and the conquering the 9 realms and then returning home to Asgard. You see a little bit of a scene with Odin and his two sons when they're younger.
Yeah,
and you get a little bit of kind of foreshadowing of their attitudes there
in the treasure room.
Yep.
Yeah,
we also get the Wise King line there, which stood out to me. Comes back into play later.
Yeah.
Where he's that's where he says, Wise King never seeks war, but is always prepared for it.
Yeah, yeah. The treasure room's fun too. I remember that being like a big Easter egg kind of thing back in the day, where you were looking for the different stuff in the background.
That's why you were waiting for this to come out on Blu-ray so you could pause it.
And
see everything.
Well, because there's the clear shot of an Infinity Gauntlet in this movie in the treasure room, which is funny because that comes back later on. They do a callback to that. Once Ragnarok rolls around, but at the time when we didn't know where everything was going, that was one of those things that was like, oh my god, that's the Infinity Gauntlet right there. And it was just like a cool moment.
Yep.
So we get the whole scene now where they're adults, because it's like the crowning ceremony, right? Like we get to see Thor as he's going to be the new king of Asgard or whatever. I gotta say that I love how full on like comic we get with their looks in this part, because Thor is wearing the winged helmet, which we don't get a whole lot of after this, but he's wearing the winged helmet. Loki does wear his a lot more often, but I love that they just went full on with like he's got the big gold helmet with the big giant horns on it, just like you would see in the comics, and there he is.
And I feel like, I'm sure they weren't sitting around the office coming up with this stuff and going, well, we'll show all of those guys who say it can't be done. But at the same time, I feel like this movie is where they really make that statement that we can do anything that the comics can do.
Exactly.
So no more of that. I remember when the first X-Men movie came out, and everybody's like, well, this, you can't have Wolverine wearing yellow. It doesn't look right on film. And you can't have him wearing spandex because it just looks ridiculous when you do that stuff. It just doesn't work. You got to movieize it, or whatever. And Marvel's just like, nope, we drew it, and now we can put it on the screen, do whatever we want. It looks great.
Yeah, I know. It's so good. I love it. Where did we go?
So there's a line here I wanted to bring up.
Okay, all right.
Because it made me laugh. Because Odin is, complimenting Thor and preparing to make him king, right? And he's talking about Mjolnir, and he's like, and you wield Mjolnir, a powerful weapon to kill and a powerful tool to build. 6 movies, man, he ain't nailed one hammer, like not one nail. He ain't put up not one wall.
He's never built anything with that thing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So that just made me laugh.
Well, we get the break-in, right?
We get the break-in.
So the ceremony gets interrupted by the Frost Giant break-in. They're breaking into the treasure room or whatever, which puts a halt to the whole thing, and they decide to postpone it, right?
Well, and they rocket it forward there to really building Loki's character because they give you that scene where they're trying to figure out what's going on, and it's Thor and their group of friends, the Lady Sif and the Warriors 3.
Yeah.
And Loki and Thor are kind of off to the side, and Loki's just right in his ear the whole time, like, hey, I think you're right about everything. This is crazy. We got to go kill all these guys. And Thor gets up and is like, all right, here's what we're doing. And everybody, is like, they try to talk him out of it, and then they go do it.
Well, and Loki, too, is then immediately like, well, we can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, he's really playing that role of just the devil on the shoulder.
How great is Loki from the very beginning?
Oh, yeah.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning. He is just like the standout, amazing character in these movies. Gosh, I love Loki so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good stuff. So we get that scene then where we get to really see the Frost Giant scene, which is pretty awesome stuff. Where we get our first taste of the Thor fights, which is awesome. Just watching him wield the hammer in a movie the way you always kind of imagined it probably would play out in the comics, but they're it was one of those things too, you always saw Thor flying with the hammer, but the thing with his hammer was he threw it and that's what made him fly. And it's it wasn't until you see that actually happening in this movie that you're yeah, man, that's it right
well,
there. That's
awesome. Seeing it in live action made Thor cool. Immediately.
Exactly. Yeah.
He looked like he stepped right out of a comic book. He talked in that, when you read the Old English, it doesn't have quite the same effect as when you hear it. He just kind of had this presence about it to him, and then the fights start, and you're watching that, and you're like, all these times I saw these pictures of this weirdo with a dumb hammer, and I had no idea he was awesome.
Yeah,
I had no idea he was awesome. Yeah. Man.
So one thing I want to critique about that, or mention about that scene.
Okay.
They shoot Laufey. Is that how you say the Frost Giant's king?
Yes.
Laufey. They shoot him so weird. One. They never do any shot of him where it looks like he's even in the same building as Thor and his friends. 2, they keep doing, and I always call it the Morticia shot.
Oh, with where the light on
where everything is in shadow except his eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm just which is a Dracula shot. That's how they shot Dracula in the old.
Yeah.
The original Universal's thing. I know that, but I always think of it as the Morticia shot.
Totally.
And they do that to him the whole time. I just thought it was really odd that they shot him that way.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
honestly,
stood out to me
Probably
right away.
Saved a bunch of money on CG.
I guess, man. I guess just do the makeup and black everything out. Just do the makeup around the eyes. We're good. But I remember noticing that. It stood out to me here. I remember noticing that way back, like when I first saw it. Maybe not necessarily the first time I saw it, but that was always a weird scene to me. So. That stood out to me. I do love that scene though. I love the whole when they send out the big giant monster and then Thor kills that instantly.
I know. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
It's
all super fun stuff.
And then Odin shows up and saves the day.
Yep.
Takes them all back to Asgard. Is a little on the upset side.
Just a little.
But they jump right into it, and that's one of the things I like about this too, is because they tell. I feel like this movie tells like 2 or 3 stories, but concisely.
Yep.
It's not bloated. It's not too short to where it's confusing. It's not too long where they're just throwing stuff in. But they go straight from that scene right there to back in the the Bifrost room with Heimdall, and Odin's just on Thor and just immediately strips him of his powers. Tells him he's not worthy, kicks him straight back to was it Midgard is what they call it?
Yeah, Midgard.
Just kicks him straight to Earth.
Exiles him,
exiles him, but puts that little, the little hex on Mjolnir, like sends that back also with those words, whoever holds the hammer, be he worthy, will wield the power of Thor, and sends that back too. But they do that as sort of an aside. Like I can't even tell if Loki noticed that really, because he really does it like under his breath and kind of sends it through, and then boom, you're into now the B story, I guess, or whatever. Yep. And you're into the fish out of water tale, where they flash you right back to where he's getting. They show you him getting hit by the van again, and now you're back with the scientists with Natalie Portman and friends.
Natalie Portman and friends
to kind of pick up on the Earth story.
Yeah.
So it's just really nice how quick they can make that transition, but without it feeling like you're jolted. Like you're just traveling with them section to section. There.
Yep.
Before we move any forward, can we talk about Thor's hair?
Yes,
because
I think we need to.
We do, and it was one of those things that stood out to me a lot in this movie, and I would keep noticing it throughout the movie. There's something real weird.
So bad.
Something weird. Okay, so is it a wig, or did they dye it like a super unnatural color of blonde, or like what is going on with it?
I thought it looked like they fried it. Accident, like they dyed it so blonde it like fried it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it looked really like straw, just like hay on his head.
Something, and
I assumed wig because of the same reason.
Yeah.
It just looked off, but that could be.
Yeah.
Well, because I also noticed his eyebrows look way brighter. Like they tried to dye his eyebrows to match his hair. So there's just like his whole face looks off because of it. Like there's just something very different about him. And we wouldn't have noticed it when we first saw this movie, but seeing Thor so many times since, it really stands out. Especially because we're only 2 movies away from Avengers, and he doesn't look like this at all in Avengers.
Right.
Like by the time Avengers rolls around, he's got darker, like more natural looking, like dirty blonde hair, and his eyebrows look natural. So there's some weird stuff going on here.
Yeah.
I don't know if they just felt they needed to make him look like super blonde, like comic book Thor, or like
probably.
So
I assume
probably just nobody was taking it seriously because it's a Thor movie. And then they saw it and they were like, "Man, we should have paid attention."
Wait, so does that mean that they didn't care about the helmets and stuff too, but those just worked? And
Maybe.
And then the hair didn't. Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Oh man. All right, so we're on Earth. We're on Midgard.
So we're on Midgard.
So
the movie, the pacing keeps up real well, like I was saying a minute ago, because it really, like, looking back, when you get to the end of this movie, you look back and it feels like you've been watching it for like 45 minutes to me, because everything happens so smooth. But that's not to say that's not a problematic point, I don't think. It's just one of those things where you can't believe how much has happened in as short of a time as it has been, because they really get right on the move. They do the scene where he wakes up, and you can tell he's still strong as an ox.
Yeah.
But he's not Thor strong.
Right.
Because he wakes up at the hospital and starts trying to get out and starts throwing orderlies around the room. But then they still slow him down enough to drug him.
Yeah.
I did love how he woke up from that again, and they had him tied to the table, and he couldn't strength his way out of the restraints, so he just slipped his hand out.
Yep.
Who tied that? What in the world? Why was that so easy? But they do that fun bit where Jane Foster goes looking for him, and he's already gone. And so she gets back in the van and or the little Jeep, and they're having their talk about finding him, and she backs right into him again.
Yeah.
So she just keeps hitting him with a car.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And then they get him back to the apartment, and they do the fun little throwback to the Donald Blake.
Yeah.
Which is like the old Secret Identity.
Right.
Like, you know, I don't know that much about Thor. I knew that was a secret identity. I don't know exactly how it worked. It was like, didn't he have to say wasn't it almost like a Shazam?
I thought it was just when he picked up the hammer he became Thor.
Was that it?
I have no idea.
I thought there was a transformation of some sort.
I thought the hammer disguised as like a staff or something.
Jack
like
Kirby was the only one who ever read Thor comics, man. Like,
wow.
Come on.
But again, it was just a neat little throwback to the past, which Marvel's been really good at doing with all of this stuff. And then it gets into more of the, you know, there's a lot of that pseudoscience talk in this movie, but it's not like
Jaron, it's not get it.
Well, but it's not like it was in Iron Man 2 where you can easily dismiss most of it. It was just sort of, it's really working to bridge that gap between, again, like the grounded-ish and the more fantastical, but to mesh them together. And they do the real easy explanation, and again, this is another point where they start to bring it up more, because Thor even says at one point, you know, like, you know, your ancestors call it magic, you call it science, but it's really the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, and Jane Foster makes a point at one point about magic just being science that we don't understand yet, or something like that.
Yep.
So they keep hammering that point home. And right now, though, in this section of the movies where they're really playing up that fish out of water thing, which, man, Hemsworth is so good at that, at being larger than the scene and not knowing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's so much bigger than the world he's in, but he has no idea. And he has played that to a T since scene one.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to watch, like all of that stuff that he does. I like also, they do that scene at the diner where she's like, how did you eat an entire box of Pop-Tarts and you're still hungry? And he's just like mashing out those pancakes like it ain't nothing, you know?
Yeah.
That's where they do the bit where he's like, drinking the coffee. He's like, I like this. I would like another. And he throws it on the ground. And she's like, what are you doing? I wanted more. Well, then just ask. He's like, I thought I did.
Such a good scene.
It is such a good scene.
It's so much fun. And then in the background of all that, they're kind of pushing the Loki story forward. You find out Loki was a frost giant himself, who's adopted. He gets into that spat with Odin. Odin ends up collapsing into a coma.
Yep.
The Odin sleep.
Yeah. I forever will love the Odinson. Thor Odinson.
Yeah.
And you get the bit later where Coulson shows up and he calls him Son of Coal.
Yeah, Son of Coal.
You know,
Yep.
But they're progressing the Loki storyline with the collapse there, so Loki takes the throne. The Warriors 3 are trying to convince him to bring Thor back.
Yeah.
He's telling them he can't do it for pretty good reasons, which are obviously lies.
Yeah.
He comes to Thor to let Thor know that Odin's dead and he can never bring him back, and Mother forbids it and all this stuff, which Thor totally buys. That's a little bit later into the movie because that's after we find the hammer and everything.
Well, before you get rolling too far, I just want to throw in real quick. I laughed real hard because Loki immediately goes to like devil on the throne. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has that argument with Odin, and Odin collapses, and then in the next scene he's just like, he's got the huge staff and his crown, and he's just all sunken back in the throne.
Dude.
Immediately like Satan on his throne.
Well, it's like classic Loki. Like,
for
you always
sure.
see Loki sitting in the throne like that in the comics.
Yeah,
so I love that.
Yeah,
and again, it's just more
it was perfect.
Yeah,
but I just thought it was immediate.
It's more of that imagery that they just flawlessly weave into this movie. And I think I don't think we've mentioned yet. This is Kenneth Branagh directed this movie, who is a very classically trained Shakespearean actor, director, all that stuff.
Perfect.
This is the guy who played. Is it Grindelwald? No, not Grindelwald. He the goofy guy in the second Harry Potter. The one who is the master. He teaches the class on the dark arts, and he's written all those books, and he turns out to be a big fraud.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he was in the Murder on the Orient Express most recently, but I figure most of our audience probably knows him from Harry Potter.
Yeah, I can't remember that character's name, but I know who you're talking about.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Dear listeners, John just called you all nerds.
That's not, yeah, obviously.
Oh, well.
That's why they're listening to the Nerd Easy.
The Nerd Easy.
But I mean, they said
Marvel
this guy.
nerd, yay?
Yep.
This guy has done a ton of Shakespeare in front of and behind the camera. He's a very talented actor and director who's been around for decades. But he's got that very classical Old English training and everything like that too. And so I always thought going in, like, I wouldn't have pegged him as a guy who would do a Marvel movie, but it seems like an inspired choice. Yeah. And you really kind of feel that storytelling woven through here because they do hit all of those beats and then just keep everything running so smooth. So anyways, we're back on Earth. Thor has... they've discovered he's heard word of the hammer having landed too, which I thought was neat. They did when they first find him way back at the beginning, when they flash back to the second time where she hits him with the first van. Yeah. And they pick him up to leave, and then as they're driving away, you see in the background the hammer come down. Yeah. Which I actually missed. My daughter pointed it out. I'm sure I had seen it in the past. But watching it this time, she's like, "Oh, there's this hammer." I'm like, "What?" "Oh, yeah, neat little kind of background thing." Then they do the bit where everybody shows up and is trying to pick up the hammer and nobody can do it. Yeah. Then S.H.I.E.L.D. gets involved, comes and sets up a fortress around the thing. Does the bit where they come in and steal all of Jane's work, all the scientists. Their stuff gets pulled, and we get to that point where Thor figures out that his hammer's out there, so he goes to get it. And then we get that fun little bit where
he tears through the entire...
He's fighting through the rain, just tearing S.H.I.E.L.D. agents apart left and right.
Which is our introduction to Hawkeye, too.
Which I thought was funny because Hawkeye, I feel like Hawkeye was sort of supposed to play the Black Widow role in this movie. He's that extra character that they add into the side that's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and kind of helpful there, except, man, did he had that one scene, Black Widow really took over chunks of Iron Man 2. Right. Hawkeye just shows up for that one. But it's really fun because he's just sitting up there the whole time like, "You want me to take this guy? You want me to take this guy?" And after a while, like when Thor's fighting the really big guy at the end, and Hawkeye's on the radio with Coulson telling him, "You might want to give me the word soon because I'm starting to root for this guy."
Yeah. Well, they also do that silly thing too, where when he finally gets the go ahead, where he goes to fight him for the first time, they do the thing where you see the hand reach for a gun, and then instead reach and grab the bow off the wall. Oh yeah. which is just like a fun little scene, to get you amped up. That's Hawkeye. There he is, the guy that uses the bow and arrow.
And this scene, man, Hemsworth looks so much bigger in this scene in particular, and in this movie than he does in any of the rest of them. I mean, he's always huge, but he is so big in this movie. Yeah. They did not have a wellness policy on Thor.
Wow. You had already brought up too, because they stop him. He obviously can't pick up the hammer.
Can't pick up the hammer.
And so
not worthy.
Yeah. This is the scene where you mentioned Loki coming to visit him.
Yep. Because he just kind of gives up on it, and they take him away, and then Coulson's trying to question him and has to leave. And as soon as he walks out of the room, they do that. And I think it's the first time they do that bit where Loki is just projecting himself. Becomes a staple of all of the movies Loki's in.
Well, he had done that. He killed a frost giant doing that too, though.
Well, I guess that's true. That's true.
But yeah,
I love though because at the end of this scene he casually walks out to the center of the crater and reaches down and tries to casually pick up Mjolnir and can't. And seems puzzled by the fact that he can't pick it up, so he just kind of leaves it there. I love that. I think that is so cool. That was
awesome.
Yeah.
But this is where Thor just finally accepts that he was wrong. What he did was he proved himself unworthy, and this is just what he's stuck with now. And so he's just kind of here, and he just really begins to accept that. You don't get the
Well, he also thinks that he killed Thor, or he killed Odin.
Yeah,
Loki tells him he killed Odin, and he buys that, and he thinks his mom hates him for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
and he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. Yeah, but they really, it's just it's a look on his face. I mean, that's what acting is. Yeah. But again, it's another instance of, I don't think Hemsworth gets a lot of credit for being awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets as much credit as he's probably due for just being a really good actor. Because right here in this scene, I mean, you can just that shift in character, but you buy every second of it because he looks like a guy who just found out his mom hates him and he killed his dad.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, totally.
You know, it's 10 seconds, but it's really powerful.
Well, I think that's a product of these movies too, though. Hemsworth is really good, but every movie this movie he has to stand. Almost every scene he has to stand across from Tom Hiddleston, who is on another level, or Odin.
Anthony
Hopkins.
Yeah, there we go.
Who is incredible.
Yeah.
He shares scenes with Stellan Skarsgård, who's phenomenal. You know what I mean? So he's never the best actor in a scene. Even when we get to the Avengers, he's usually in there with, he's in a scene with Robert Downey Jr. and the other Chris. Or is he not with Captain America?
Evans.
Chris Evans. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know what I mean? And
so many Chris's.
So like he is a very good actor, and I couldn't imagine anybody else playing Thor.
Oh, no way.
You know what
Not
I
at this
mean?
point, no way.
But he does not get the chance
Not
to
even
be
Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah, but he doesn't get the chance to ever be the best actor in the room, so that plays again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why
I
he doesn't get that credit, I think. So
I can see that.
So what's I always forget Stellan Skarsgård's name in the movie. Dr.
Selvig.
Selvig. So because Selvig comes to rescue him from this point, like kind of makes up a story about who he is and gets him out, which is great.
Like so many. It's at least 2 scenes in a row here where Coulson just spends just going, I'm just gonna watch whatever happen. Because they totally do that. Like Selvig just shows up, tells everybody that the guy they've captured is Donald Blake.
Yeah.
He's a doctor, has fake credentials.
He was drunk.
And, he was. Yeah.
Well, because immediately
he's
they're
a fitness freak, whatever.
Steroids.
Yeah.
Well,
I told you, no wellness policy.
Yeah, because immediately they check the credentials.
They run the credentials and it's flashing on the screen.
Yeah, like they look up at Coulson and Coulson knows it, but he's just letting them go on with their story.
Well, and the one who runs the credentials is a Hydra agent.
Yeah, that's Jasper Sidwell.
Yes,
that's our first. I was going to mention that too. This is our first exposure to him because that guy shows up in several movies also.
Wow!
Remember, we don't know it yet.
Yeah,
most of these guys are Hydra agents.
Well, most of them.
Yeah.
But that's the guy. He was in this. He's in one of the one shots. I believe he's in Avengers maybe he might not be, but he's definitely in Winter Soldier.
Yep.
So he's a running character.
Yeah.
That we first see here. We've got some other firsts coming up later as
jump
we'll
to
get to. Well, at the end credit sequence. That's the first time we see the Tesseract.
Oh yeah.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Until I watched it in this movie, I just accepted it as a part of the universe.
Right.
Like I was like, oh wait, this is where we first see that darn thing.
Yep.
Which becomes such a big deal. But they let Thor go. Selvig takes him to a bar, tries to explain to him, he's looking out for Jane.
Yep.
And so he basically tells Thor, I don't really believe your stories, but you do seem to have the best of intentions, so do me a favor. I got you I got you out of there. Now you get out of here.
Right.
We'll have a few drinks, and then just don't be there in the morning. And then they have way too many drinks, so he has to take Selvig back.
This is another one of those awesome scenes, too, where Thor's just he just the giant mug and it's just gone. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And Selvig is hammered. And it's
we drank, we fought. He made his ancestors proud. So that's something I'll bring up because when he comes back, they drop off drunk Selvig. And then him and Jane go up on the roof and have their little romantic, intimate moment around the fire, looking up at the stars and having that conversation. And he gives her thing back. I love these first phase movies. they have a level of intimacy that we start to lose going forward.
Yeah.
The scene with him and Selvig in the bar, and it's really just the two of them. This scene with him and her, and it's just the two of them just having a conversation. The scene in Iron Man when it's just him and when it's just Stark and Pepper and Obadiah Stane, when he comes back, and it's just them sitting there talking. We don't get after this, we kind of stop having scenes like that.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Well, I mean, honestly, not necessarily Iron Man or Iron Man 2 so much, but Incredible Hulk and Thor and Captain America, which we'll get to in the next episode here, those are essentially love stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they really can be framed that way.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on in the background.
Iron Man? I don't know.
I said not Iron
not
Man.
Iron
Not Iron Man or
Iron
Iron Man 2, but the other three are all, you can frame any of them that way.
Okay.
There's a lot going on in the background, so they're bigger than just that. They're not exactly rom-coms, but they all have that element is very strong in all of them.
Yeah.
They all have that, like Iron Man has Gwyneth Paltrow as the female lead, and she's a strong character, but she's just not in that light. The rest of them are all direct, heavy love interests for the main superhero there.
Yeah.
And they do play up that aspect of all of those movies as a strong aspect of those characters. So I'm gonna there.
So I like that aspect. One of the things I'm going to criticize about this movie is I feel like Jane Foster is a little bit like too doe-eyed girl. I don't know how to. I feel like it. She's so just like instantly fawning over this hunk, you know what I mean? Like he really hasn't done anything except kind of be a jerk, at this point, you know what I mean? So really, she's only just kind of fawning over him because he looks dreamy, you know what I mean? I feel like it takes away from a little bit of like the, hard-driven scientist that they portray her to be.
But like she never loses that drive. She never gives up on her science to help the hunk out or anything like that. She's just charmed by this guy. I mean, they're not.
I feel like they play it like she falls head over heels at first sight for him,
which is fine.
I don't like it.
What's wrong with love at first sight?
It's horse crap.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into the cynicism now.
Well,
I would disagree.
I mean, you've seen him with the shirt off, right? Thor's a good-looking dude.
Well,
I'm kind of in love with him.
Yeah.
Swoon.
Well,
I didn't feel like. I get what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong. I didn't feel it play as problematic at all. Like I don't. It's sort of a rom-com element, but I don't think they played it up so much that it's distracting. And I don't think they undermined her character with it because there was never. If they had thrown that moment in where she's like, well, forget the science, we got to help the blonde guy, then I'd have gone with it. But she always kept her priorities on that research stuff. That was always what was driving her through the whole movie. She just also happened to have this, God man show up in her lap as well.
Yeah.
And
well, maybe that plays into my one big gripe with the movie, is that it's framed as this, it's basically this love story. But it's not, it's one of those, I think it really falls into that category where they play up the love story just because there's a leading man and a leading woman, and that's the only way we know how to frame emotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thor wants his hammer, goes after his hammer, wants to get back home, and then when he realizes he can't get back home, it's because he thinks he's exiled and he killed his dad and his mother hates him. She is supposed to be doing all this other, she's supposed to be trying to get her stuff back, like you said, all this stuff. She needs her research back, and she wants to get her research, and she wants to learn how the Einstein-Rosenbridge thing works and all that, but they fall in love, and he becomes worthy because they fall in love, and I think it's.
He didn't become worthy because they fell in love. He became worthy because he sacrificed himself for that, for all those people.
So okay, but why? Like that's my thing. The only
he's worthy.
But the only ground. So here's my thing. The only ground they build, the only change in him is that he feels guilty, and guilt should not make him worthy, and that he's fallen in love with a human woman. You know what I mean? Like those are the only changes in him. I would have, I think it should have been a little more profound. If he's going to be worthy, and to become king of the Norse gods, I feel like it needed something. Like if he had spent some time in town and met everybody, and so like he was like, oh, these are good people, I'll die for these people, then that turn means anything. You know what I mean? Like the turn of just I'm gonna go get murdered for these people because I'm worthy.
That's how I took it. It was him sacrificing himself, not for his girlfriend or this woman he's fallen in love with, but also these other people he's met that he's grown to like, and the fact that there are the people as a whole, like this entire town where the people are about to get murdered because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's the only one who is responsible for all that stuff, and the only way he can take that responsibility is by essentially sacrificing himself. He doesn't have the power to fight him. His friends have already tried.
They got handled too.
Yeah,
right?
We're kind of rocketing forward to the end.
Right.
Loki sends the destroyer to take out
That's
Thor.
okay. I think that's a good place to be now.
Yeah.
So that Thor will be dead, and then there won't be any threat to the throne. The Warriors 3 and the Lady Sif show up, or Xena. What do they call Xena, Jackie Chan, and Robin Hood as one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents calls them.
Yeah.
And they had no joke for the fat guy. I was mad we have a history of fat guys. They can't come up with Hagar the Horrible or
I know,
you know what I mean? Like you couldn't come up with one name for a big fat, Gimli.
Yeah,
you could have been
Gimli.
You know what I mean? Like,
but they show up to tell Thor that Odin's not dead,
right?
And all that that Loki's been lying to him. But this is the same time the destroyer shows up and starts wiping through this town. So Plan A is, his warrior buddies will go take care of it.
Yeah.
They get handled.
Plan
B
quick.
is he's trying to get everybody out of town. That's nowhere near fast enough. He gets to that point where. And it wasn't framed in my mind at all. I never looked at it as, well, he's just trying to save the girl. I looked at it as him looking around that town and going, like, all these people are messed up, and it's going to be completely my fault. And fighting didn't work. The only thing I have left is to offer myself, because that's what they're here for. And he even gives that speech. He's like, talking to the destroyer, knowing Loki can hear, says, I don't know what I did to upset you this much or why it's got to come to this, but these people didn't do anything wrong. And I don't think he was just talking about Jane and his friends. I think he was talking about all of these people.
I do too, but I think that for me that falls flat because he didn't meet any of those people. He doesn't
need to.
So like
if you're king, you're not going to meet everyone in your kingdom, but you still have to serve all of them equally.
But if you're a bloodthirsty, glory-hungry warrior, as he's been portrayed through the whole movie, something has to change that. You don't just decide, well, so I felt like the change was unmotivated, unless it was motivated by falling in love, because that's really the only thing. Because even if you say, well, he felt guilty about what he did, he felt guilty when he thought he had murdered his dad and his mom hated him. As soon as he found out that was a lie, he doesn't feel guilty for that anymore.
It wasn't guilt; it was responsibility. And even if his dad's alive, he still put him. He's still the one whose actions put all of this into motion.
That's fine, except that's also barely true, because Loki, man, is super the pettiest, most poorly motivated villain of all time. like that's another thing. His motivation is clear. It is all complete garbage. Everybody is super apologetic and super handles him with kid gloves, and every wrong they ever do, and every time he tries to call it out, you did this wrong, why didn't you tell me? They're like, I know, I'm sorry, we're so terrible, but we love you, please, and he's just like, well, nope, I'm gonna murder everybody anyway. And when he comes to Thor's like, oh, brother, thank you so much for coming and giving me these lies. I'm so, God, just, man, take care of everything. You'll be a great leader. Just take care of everything, and I'll just rot down here on Midgard. And he's like, yeah, you will. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and murder everybody. I'm gonna help the frost giants come in, and then I'm gonna murder all of them. You know what I mean? Like he is just such a
He's a villain, bro.
Which I love. Don't get me wrong. I love.
Yeah.
I have many mixed feelings on the the righteous villains that we have a lot of now. I as much as I love Thanos, but we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on that stuff. So I love it. But I feel like it is a weak justification. I love the movie. I love Thor. I'm glad he's worthy. Like, don't get me wrong, but on watching it and judging it with a bit more critical of an eye, his arc fell flat to me, and his decision to become worthy felt unmotivated and weak.
Yeah, I don't know. I just disagree.
I think so. Like, I was getting ready to say something, and I kind of just realized I'm probably thinking of another movie. But I know that this particularly, I think, is Thor's first experience with Midgard in person. So this is his first time interacting with any of its people, any Earthlings or anything like that. And now that I'm about to say this, I'm certain that this happens later in Avengers. But I know that there's a point in that where Loki questions why he cares about these people so much.
Yep.
And we get the answer of basically because they're people.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know. That's just kind of the way I look at it too. I feel like Thor kind of came to a realization that there's more to life than me just being a cocky, eat, drink everything all day, fight people, and sit on the throne. There's all this going on too, and that's maybe that realization is what helps with the whole.
And that's fine. I just don't feel like they showed that enough for me to buy him making that change. Like if this had been more like a Hallmark movie, one of those like Hallmark Christmas movies where like he shows up in town and he's stranded in town and like Jane Foster he's kind of showing him around and he's meeting all these people with her, you know what I mean? Like that's how all those movies go. Like some rich a-hole gets stranded in some little town. And the one.
All right, somebody cut Thor as a Hallmark movie now.
well, but see, I think that would have been that would have been better, and then I think that would have motivated that turn a little better. If he had taken her, if he had gone, if he had met somebody in the diner other than just the guy who he demanded directions from. If he had more of a connection meeting the guy who couldn't sell him a cat or dog large enough to ride, like if there had been some more of that to where he had met some of the people around town to then be like, well, these are all good people. You know what I mean? Like then I would have felt that more. So.
Well, you heard it here first. Jaren says Thor would have been better as a Hallmark movie.
So at that point, the destroyer blasts Thor. He becomes worthy. Mjolnir pops out of its rocket stuck in and flies to him. You get the full suit up action there. And then they pull a reverse DC movie. Instead of having to fight a tornado monster, he becomes a tornado monster.
I was like, where are you going with this?
and beats the bad guy as a tornado monster. But he said he comes to and just handles the destroyer, and that's done. Gets his way back to Asgard in enough time to stop Loki from letting a bunch of frost giants in to kill Odin.
Well, except he doesn't.
Well,
because because that's just another ploy.
Because that's another ruse of Loki.
So Loki lets the frost giants in, and then Loki stops the frost giants.
To become hero. Or whatever. But then Thor.
But then Thor immediately shows up, and he's like, "Yep, you're a liar. Yep. He's a liar, Mom.
I didn't do anything." But they get into their big fight. They have their back and forth, which ends with basically Loki's going to destroy Jotunheim with the Bifrost. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but somehow he's just going to...
Well, they kind of said that earlier. I don't know. Heimdall said... Because when they first went to Jotunheim, one of the Warriors 3 was like, "Can't you just leave it open for us?"
Oh,
and he's like, "If I leave it open, it'll tear Jotunheim to pieces." It's like, I don't know how that works either. They at least established it.
They built a bridge so big it'll destroy them all. So that's the kind of his plan, and it turns out that the only way that Thor can stop him is to basically just destroy the Rainbow Bridge, which knocks the Bifrost out of commission completely. And to do that, he'll have to give up any hope of seeing Jane, as it turns out, just for the near future. Not for very long at all.
No,
but,
they get that fixed up.
Yeah, which is funny too, because they kind of like. That's how they explain it here, and then they sort of give you a sideways explanation for why he's on Earth in Avengers. We'll get to in a couple episodes, and then they just sort of forget about all of that. Bifrost is fine again. You know?
Totally.
You know what? But he makes that sacrifice. Oh, go ahead.
I forgot that it was the first Thor movie that he broke the Rainbow Bridge, and I don't know why, because I knew that was a thing that happened, but I forgot that was in the very first Thor movie that he broke down the bridge.
They have the scene where they break the bridge. They're both about to fall into nothingness, and Odin shows up because he just woke up and sort of catches them both. But he does that, he catches them with a staff, so they're both kind of dangling on. And they have that scene where, they're urging Loki to not fall to his death, and he just lets go and kind of drifts away, assumably.
Assumably
not a
is
word.
a word.
Presumably to his doom.
Yeah.
Because they do have a tendency to kill all the good bad guys and all the bad guys. They just mostly kill all the bad guys in a lot of these movies.
That's a bad comic book movie trope.
Yeah.
Bad guy has to die at the end. I've always hated that, but luckily.
So that's where they that's where they leave us here, though.
Yeah.
We assume he's dead. There's a little discussion at the end about the fact that the bridge is broken. He's talking to Heimdall, basically asking what Jane's up to.
Yeah.
They show Natalie Portman. She's out there looking for him still, and that's just sort of kind of where they leave it off, and then boom into the end credits there, which is also very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's just the opening screen. Okay. Yeah, but except it's got Mjolnir flying through. Yeah.
Meow meow.
Meow meow.
We did make one meow meow joke.
Yeah. We didn't bring up how great Kat Dennings was in this movie either. She was just a comic relief. Yeah. But she had a few good ones.
She was fine.
Totally.
She was fine.
Meow meow.
I'm never too impressed with Kat Dennings.
Meow meow. What's meow meow?
I just liked when she obviously doesn't understand what's going on, and Sylvie's like, I thought you were
at any point ever in the movie.
That's the point though. She's like, I thought you were a science major. She's like, political science. She's
the only one that applied.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's Thor in a nutshell, in a 52-minute nutshell.
That's right. Well, and then we should just go ahead and bring up that post-credit scene too, real quick, because that's where we get our fun little tie-in to everything and a good little look at what's something huge that's about to come, like you mentioned earlier. Because Nick Fury ends up calling Selvig into S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and Selvig has no idea why he's there, and he's kind of nervous about it. But that's when Fury basically...
But you brought me down here to kill me.
Yeah. And then Fury basically prevents him with this special artifact that they need his help to crack, basically. And they open up the case to show the Tesseract for the first time, the Cosmic Cube. And then that's where we get our little glimpse in the mirror that Loki's still around, and
the reveal there too, and he's controlling Selvig.
He's already controlling Selvig here, it looks like. So or somehow, or at least guided him there or something, because so either way, we know that there's bigger plans with Loki, and that
he's not dead, drifting through the emptiness of space.
Exactly. And we get a little bit more backstory on the Tesseract in the next movie. So good stuff there. All right, so Jaron, do you have a rating for Thor?
Thor gets 2 Loki helmets, which means it gets 4 big bendy horns.
I like it. That's my favorite one so far. That's a good one. It would have had 5 full bendy horns if it was a Hallmark movie.
It would have.
Which is 2.5 Loki helmets. I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun watching it back.
Yeah.
It's of the we got to rate the batch that we've watched so far, right? Like, haven't we been doing that?
We were going to do them every 5.
We're going to do it by phase.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're not going to rate them just yet.
Not just yet.
It's definitely one that I like quite a bit.
Yes.
But if I had to rank them right now, I would still put both Iron Man and Incredible Hulk above Thor, I think, but not Iron Man 2.
I would probably put Thor Thor would probably fall real close. We're like right on the line. I'd have a hard time liking one better than the Incredible Hulk. One or the other. I would have a hard time liking one or the other better.
So I'm totally there with you.
Yeah.
It's like it's right there. I mean, it's hard to judge.
Trying to rank Phase 1's gonna give me a nosebleed.
It's hard. It's super hard. I know. Awesome stuff. Well, there we go. That is our look back at Thor. Very, very fun movie, and we've got much, much more to come. We are just now finally starting to get towards the end of Phase 1, but we got some good movies to look forward to. So if you guys are enjoying our little look back, please make sure to follow us on iTunes and Stitcher or Podbean or Google Play or wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to rate and review us as well. We are just under the Geek Easy podcast feed, so all of our podcasts go under one feed there. I think there was a little bit of confusion at the beginning. Some people were like looking for Marvel Good Yay as a separate show, but I've just been uploaded. It's all under the same feed, so just hit that one feed. You'll get all of our shows right there. You can also find us on YouTube. Just do a search for the Geek Easy Podcast, and you can watch the video format of the show as well. And you can always head on over to Facebook, do a search for Geek Easy Podcast, and you can leave us feedback there as well. We got
if you want to watch the video versions of the Marvel Good Yay episodes, you may get a special surprise here and there.
Oh, that's right. Anybody that's been watching the video versions knows exactly what we're talking about, but there's definitely some fun extras at the end of every episode of the video version. So
make sure you check out the video versions and make sure you watch it all the way through to the end.
All the way through to the end. No skipping. You can skip if you want, I guess, but all right, guys, well, make sure you join us next time where we'll be covering Peggy Carter the movie. I'm really looking forward to that.
It's one of my favorites.
It is definitely one of mine. All right, guys, until next time.
Marvel Good Yay.
Marvel Good Yay.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.
Welcome, Dr. John.
Not a doctor. And did you bring me down here to kill me?
No, actually, I have something here I think that might help with your research.
Don't do research. But I'll take a look. Well, I guess that's worth taking a look at.
What's worth taking a look at?